So what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the JeffMan316 Customs YouTube channel, and welcome back to my latest movie review. In this review, I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions on the latest Blumhouse horror film, Freaky. Freaky is the latest movie from Blumhouse that just got released on home video and Blu-ray, which is where I purchased it on Blu-ray, and that's how I saw it. It stars Vince Vaughn and Kathryn Newton. The film was directed by Christopher Landon, who also directed the first Happy Death Day, which has got a kind of Happy Death Day vibe to it. And he also wrote the sequel to that. So on paper, Freaky seems like your typical body swapping movie from, maybe like the 90s or 80s or 90s, but it's got, with a horror twist. But let's go ahead and talk about it so you'll know whether this is like just your typical color by numbers horror movie or whether it's add something new to the equation. So before we dig too deep into it, if you'll do me a favor and go ahead and support the channel by liking this video, please hit the thumbs up and give it some likes. Leave any comments below if you want to discuss this film, and then subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate all the new subscribers that I've gotten lately. And then after you subscribe, hit the notification bell and you'll be the first to know when I post new review videos or other pop culture videos like toy reviews and movie reviews or that kind of stuff. So why don't you let your freak flag fly and come over and talk about Freaky with me? Let's go. So a lot of you might have already seen Freaky because it did have a limited theatrical release. So in this video, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Blu-ray release that I just purchased. I haven't dug into the special features, so I'm going to just go ahead and talk about the movie. It did look pretty good on Blu-ray. I will say I'm not going to go into a lot of technical details, but it had some parts in it that looked a little grainy to me. So I thought it was something this new that it would have been, real eye-catching and it would pop, but maybe I was expecting too much. But it looked good for a typical Blu-ray, so nothing out of the ordinary. I think you'll like it. Nothing too spectacular, like I said. So what I'm going to do is, this might have some light spoilers. It's going to be really hard to talk about a movie like this without having some spoilers to it. But I won't spoil the end, and I'll definitely, like I said, if I get too deep into it, I'll try to stop, and I won't go too far. Like I said, I watched it this past weekend on the Blu-ray that I bought. What I'll do with this review is I'll divide it up into groups. I'm going to give you my good, my bad, and then my WTFIT. If you haven't watched a couple of my earlier videos, that is, what the is this? Does it have any of those moments? Watch this review and you'll find out whether it does have any of those. So for a body swapping movie, I'll give them credit. It doesn't go too far on the cliche side, and it does try to add a real nice horror edge to it. With it being rated R, they were able to do some stuff with the gore and the special effects. They actually did a little bit more than I was expecting, so that's a positive, that's a good. I really also like how they explained how they did the body swap. They didn't try to go too convoluted, but they did try to explain it, and it involves this magical dagger. Like I said, I won't spoil too much about it or what happens with it, but you obviously know from the trailer that Vince Vaughn is a character who's a serial killer, and his name is the Butcher. And he switches places with a teenager that her character's name is Millie.
Where am I?
I didn't get killed.
Oh my God, why do I sound like that?
I woke up in the killer's body.
And then, the chaos ensues. So I will say that once the body swap happened, the movie had some really nice pacing. It didn't really drag too much. And as you went back and forth between the two characters and the things they were doing, they had a pretty fast pace to the movie. It was an hour and like 40 minutes or whatever, but it didn't really drag any. So I was really, pleased with the pace, and I didn't get bored with the movie as it went along. Another good, like I mentioned, was the kills, man. Some of these kills in this movie were inventive, or they had some good imagination behind them. And then they had some good blood and guts to them. Like, there's a couple of them in there, especially at the beginning. I won't spoil it, but the one where there's a tennis racket that he breaks and uses that I thought was pretty unique, that I hadn't really seen before in a movie. If I have, leave me some comments below if maybe I missed it in another movie and just don't remember it. But I thought that was cool. And then they had another one in it with a giant like skill saw that it's the the classic cliche moment in a movie where oh, somebody's going to get cut and they stop it. Do they? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. But it's a really good sequence, and I thought that was pretty good as far as the effects wise, and I might have just ruined it, but I'll let you watch it. But the biggest positive or good, if you want to call it for me, is Vince Vaughn. I thought he was amazing in this. I think he could have maybe taken it up a notch since it was rated R and been a little more edge to him. Not saying that he needed to really be raunchy, but it is a rated R movie and he's a serial killer. So I think the parts at the beginning before he did the body swap, he could have done more with him. And then when his mind is in with the girl, I definitely think they should have done more with that.
Ow! Will you stop? It's me, it's Millie. Hail, Blissfield, high, feel our glory and our might.
But Vince Vaughn himself, as far as his acting in it, I think he does a really good job. He's got some really good comedic moments, and there's some scenes in it that there's a few awkward things when he's, has the girl's mind inside of his that I didn't think that they would do, that almost was cringeworthy, but it made me chuckle and laugh. So I don't know that I couldn't think of another actor that would really have been good in this role. So I thought Vince Vaughn was pretty good in this role, and having him play the body swap person, I think it was an excellent choice of casting. So speaking of casting, I'm going to go ahead and start the bad section with the casting. I think the actress that played Millie is a little flat. Her performance is flat. I mean, she's obviously a pretty girl to begin with, and they don't do enough with her to make her seem like dumpy or nerdy or whatever, like in some movies where they would cliche have the glasses, where she would take off, and become the sexy girl, or she would wear her hair up all the time and pull it down. They didn't really do any of that. What they did was they tried to give her a lot of emotional baggage and make it to where, because of her backstory, she really wasn't close to the people around her. She had a really tight-knit group of like one or two friends. I think it'd be like two friends, and didn't really talk to anybody else. And even the teachers bullied her a little bit, I thought, because she was allowed people to push her around. But I think that's one of the things that did drag the movie down a little bit, was they tried to put too much emotional baggage on her to explain things around her, like her mother was an alcoholic, her father, left the family, her sister couldn't deal with it, so she turned into, went to become a police officer to deal with it. A lot of that stuff made it seem like it was almost like a TV drama, like they would add to like Riverdale type of stuff, that they'd add all the drama around it. You didn't need to do that. You could have just kept it simple. You could have made the story about a loner, just a regular old loner who didn't have any friends, who was, into reading books, and then had stuck his head in a book in a library or something. And then you could have went on from there. I think the baggage they put on her really dragged the story down. So then at the end, I do think you could say that another bad could be that they tried to play up from two audiences at once with this. They wanted that PG-13 horror audience, like with Happy Death Day and stuff, so they kind of tamed it down. They didn't want to go too hard edge with it. But then they also wanted to go for the hardcore horror fan and have a lot of gore and that type of stuff in it. So it's almost like they couldn't decide what type of movie they wanted to make. But like I said, it's not too big of a negative. It's good. It's like, if you like those PG-13 movies, you'll love this one, because it does at least take it up a notch. But I wanted them to go one more notch farther. So that was my good and the bad. So did it have any WTFIT moments? What the is this? I would say not really. I mean, it was pretty good. The only thing I would say is the ending could be close to a WTF moment, or at least the ending after what you thought was the ending. I don't want to give away too much, but not knowing whether this movie was going to be popular and knowing that they made multiple Happy Death Day movies, I think they wrote themselves into a corner, and they would have a tough time making a sequel with the way they ended it. I know the knife still exists, or the dagger or whatever, but that's not enough for me. I would have liked to have had this have a little more open ending, like left the door open so that they could have had all the characters come back, or at least the ones that didn't get killed. And those were all side characters anyway. All they did was maybe leave the window open, if you want to use that analogy. Instead of the door, they left the window cracked. I'm not interested, though, with the way they ended in coming back to the story, unless something really imaginative takes place. But with that being said, I'm fine with it just being its own single entity. I did think it was funny, though. One thing I forgot to mention, it's not a good or a bad, so I'll just mention it to wrap it up, is that they put us a little, I don't know if you want to call it an Easter egg or whatever in this, but as the movie progresses, it goes from Wednesday the 11th to Thursday the 12th to Friday the 13th. I guess you could call this movie Freaky Friday the 13th. But obviously they couldn't do that because they didn't want to be sued. So what do you think of Freaky? Did you have you already watched it on demand, or did you wait like I did and buy the Blu-ray so you could watch it at home? I think I would have enjoyed watching this in the theater. So I think this movie is really cool. It kind of reminded me of a movie kind of like Idle Hands. So it's more positive than negative in this movie. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this movie's on fire. I recommend seeing Freaky. I think it's good. So let your freak flag fly. Say that 3 times real fast. And watch Freaky. I think you'll like it. So what do you think? Do you think this movie fell flat, or did you think that it was on fire like me? Leave any comments below. Do me a favor and like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I appreciate all the support you guys have been giving me. And after you subscribe, hit the notification bell and you'll be the first to know when I post new videos. So I really appreciate your support. I appreciate your time while you watch this video. And this is JevMan316, your pop culture reporter, signing out saying, you guys be safe out there.